And you are live.
Hi, everybody. This is John Townsend. You're on the Dr. Townsend Live web in our program, call in, whatever we call it. I think we just call it a webinar. I'm here every day of the week, one day of the week, every week. Wednesdays on Pacific time, 2 o'clock, 2 to 3 every Wednesday that I can make it, and I make most of them. And this is a time where you can be here and you can connect and ask questions about relationships and about struggle and about resilience and about family and marriage, dating, friendships. You can talk about emotional issues, behavioral issues, talk about your own struggle. We kind of cover the gamut of the human condition. We try to give answers that are helpful and that make sense and that are practical, but also answers that answer the why. Because if you don't get to the why, then you're back to the Bob Newhart YouTube video of just stop it. I'm feeling depressed. Just stop it. Well, stop it never worked. I mean, read the Old Testament. So we try to give answers to get to the why, get to the root of it, find out what the root is, and give you something to do about it. So we love our community, and we're on a bunch of programs there. Our wonderful producer, Stacy, has got us on Facebook Live. You might be on Twitter. You might be watching us on LinkedIn. We love it, LinkedIn, because all the leadership and business questions we get. Love those leadership business questions. And we just got on first week on YouTube Live. So welcome up to our YouTube community too. And we just love talking to everybody. So what you need to do is call in. We want you to call in first. 877-853-5257, 877-853-5257. And then just use meeting ID, like in a Zoom, your meeting ID number, 876-5437-2012 or 876-5437-2012. That'll put you in the waiting room. Stacy will find you, talk to you. And those are the call-ins. And then those of you who can't call in for some reason, the call-ins are higher priority, but we do want to get to the question. Just text your question in your chat part of Twitter or LI or YouTube or Facebook and say, I got a question. Stacy will read it to me and we'll take care of it. But what we really want you to do is to be courageous and get out there and really, face your demons and talk to me, because it's a better experience. You get better information. That's when you just get on the Zoom and we'll hear your voice, and you won't see you. We won't see you, but I'll hear your voice. You'll hear my voice, and we'll talk. So you can talk to me or you can chat, and we have a good, helpful time for you. And Stacy, I think you said somebody is ready to go and ready to have a question. Yeah.
Yes. Welcome to the Dr. Townsend Show. You are live with Dr. Townsend.
Hello, Deborah. Welcome. Hi, Deborah.
Caller, are you with us?
Yes.
Hello.
Great.
Hi.
Deborah, welcome to the show. And where are you in the world? We always like to know that.
I am in Flagler Beach, Florida.
Whatburg?
Flagler Beach, Florida. I'm in the Sunshine State.
Spell Fladberg. I don't think I know it. Fladberg?
Flagler. Beach.
I have heard of it. Yep. Okay. Well, welcome and glad you're here on the program. You're first up. So what's your question today?
Well, I lost my husband pretty suddenly. 14 months. Pancreatic cancer. Took him in 8 weeks. I know he's with Jesus. I know he's okay. Since then, we were in the process of moving to Flagler Beach. So I'm in a new town by myself in a new house. And when my husband passed, of course, I'm devastated. I am a Christian. I know he's okay. I know God has a plan for me. But I'm not managing anything very well. I'm literally all alone in the world. I have one good friend who helps me frequently, calls me. She's in Texas. Both of our children, we have 2 boys. The youngest has always been very close with his daddy and myself. And since his daddy passed, I have things that we just don't get along. We just don't understand each other at all.
Are your kids living at home?
No, they are 33 and 28.
Okay.
So my question is, I should also add in there, my mother is still alive and I've never had a good relationship with her. It's horrible. I've tried my hardest, and I don't think, short of a miracle, and I've been praying for one for 57 years, we're not ever going to be okay. So when my husband passed, this is 57 years worth, so I'm trying to narrow it down. Basically, I don't have anybody. My youngest son is not speaking to me. My mother has made everything just so much worse. We have never been close, and the only people who came when for my husband's funeral was my youngest son and his dad and sister. His other family lives in Hawaii, and it was during COVID, so it just
nobody else came to the service but those people.
Right.
That's devastating.
It is. However, he died in January of 21. In August, my mother decided she wanted a Florida vacation, so she invited herself, and it was really because her favorite child, my brother, who lives in South Carolina, wanted her to come to his house to a birthday party. So now,
Deborah, I think I have a lot of information now that I need. I just need a question from you now, and I think we can help you.
Okay. And
what's your question?
My question is, how do I move forward? How do I let all these hurts go and live?
Okay. I'm really sorry. I can't even imagine. With pancreatic cancer, it's so aggressive, and it's an awful, awful disease, and you have to just be torn in half even after 14 months. I'm very, very sorry. It sounds like the normal processes that people do to get past these things are not happening for you. That the way the process is intended is we feel our sadness. We have to rearrange our lives and all that. You know, what's life like waking up without them, and how do I engage and all that. But the real healing factor there, in addition to a relationship with God, is that we get surrounded by healthy, loving people who kind of like envelop us and let us cry and give us comfort and let us just be kind of like a hot mess until we're ready to not be a hot mess. And then we start making decisions. It sounds like that process did not occur for you, Deborah, except for your one friend in Texas. What I hear is that these relationships with your son and relationship with your mom, which maybe a relationship with your son might have been good before your husband passed, I'm not sure, but that went really south, and your mom's relationship is always south, and they're kind of some of the only voices in your head. Otherwise, you're utterly alone. So my question would be, since the surrounding didn't happen, you got a couple of people who are really not good for you at this point. I mean, you love and care about it, but they're not good for you at this point. Where are the community of friends that just say, Deborah, come over, cry? One of my close friends lost his wife a few months ago. And we just get together and have dinner, or we get with friends and have dinner. And sometimes we'll be having dinner, he'll just break down because he's doing what he needs to do. And we'll just be there and and ask what he's sad about. And he'll say, I just thought I saw her coming down the hallway and she's not here. I've been married 50 years to her. And he'll weep, but we're having dinner. And then we'll be there. We get it. It's okay. And then a few minutes later, we'll talk about, Super Bowl. And then an hour later, he starts crying again. And it's perfectly normal because he's surrounded by this community of warm people that are letting him feel what he needs to feel. And it's getting better for him now. I don't hear that you have that. And I want you to have that. And why isn't that happening, Deborah?
We moved a lot. We were married 35 years, and we moved 9 times. So,
wow. Are you military?
not. There's
Okay.
extenuating circumstances of why we've moved so many times. Most of the move came after our oldest son was severely injured in Iraq, and we moved to Texas.
Sorry.
So,
So you
really-
haven't had a lot of opportunity to develop some deep relational roots of very, very safe people.
right. I have no one except my friend in Texas.
Is there you said you're a Christian, I'm a Christian too. Is there a big, healthy church in driving distance?
I thought there was, and I don't want to waste all your time, but I was in counseling, and the counselor would frequently forget me. We were doing Zoom meetings, and
You were the counselor who worked with the church? A church
Yes, sir.
counselor?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Fifth time she forgot me, I just thought, we're not a good fit. Forgetting me is not helping me at all. And so I wrote her a really nice email thanking her for her time. And the next day I got an email from a staff member of the church telling me I had been removed from Bible study. No one called to see if I had COVID, if I was dead, just you've been removed. And I know, these are older ladies, but I get it. It's kind of a girl thing, but it's still wrong. And it's the church. And
yeah, it sounds like kind of a mean girl thing. Like in eighth grade. When in eighth grade, you're not in the club anymore.
Absolutely.
All right. Deborah, I get that. And it does happen. And here's a couple of ideas I've got. You're in Florida, in the middle part of Florida, right?
Yes, sir. East Coast.
East Coast part. Stacy and I are going to look for some references for you for healthy churches, and in a couple of days she'll get you some names because I have a lot of relationships, and there's got to be a church that wouldn't do that to you. It's awful. So number one, let's don't give up on the church, because I know a ton of churches that would say, here's a grief group. Here's a lost my spouse group. Here's a starting again group. You really need the body of Christ to come around and say, you can be a mess, you can be scared, you can be overwhelmed, and we will connect with you, and then we'll help you with what normal feels like. And so that's number one. The other thing is, let's don't give up on counseling either. When I heard you first came on the show, and I heard your voice, the first thing I thought was depression. I didn't know what the issue was going to be, but I heard depression. It's because of all the pain and the loss and the sort of like lostness of life. So let's don't give up on the counselor either. I want you to find a healthy church with great teaching and worship, and also a great small group thing for people who've suffered, and also a counselor. And great churches have those. And so those are my two things. I want you to go to my website, and there's a drtownsend.com, and just there's a contact info email, or with the email addresses. Get that and send it to us, and I'm going to send you a couple of names. And do you mind trying it again, even though you've been burnt?
No, sir, I don't mind at all. I'm desperate.
Yes. And so that's going to be our next step. And today's Wednesday. We'll have it to you by Friday.
Thank you so much.
All right. You take care, Deborah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You know, when you lose everything that's important to you, and you've got nothing left except for toxic people that are beating you up, and then you go to the wrong church, and who knows? Maybe it was a glitch. I always try to give grace. Maybe it was an administrative glitch, but it was really bad timing for that glitch. A lot of times Christians will say, I don't even want God anymore. His people aren't nice. I won't go after him. I don't hear that in Deborah, of course. I think Deborah kept her faith, but it sure is awful when what's supposed to happen doesn't happen. So you got somebody in your life that's struggling like that. Don't cancel her. Be the person that says, you want to have lunch and just talk about nothing. It really makes a difference. I remember when, Stacey, have I got time for a story? I got to take the next call.
You have some callers waiting on you, but
We'll
if
come
you
later. No,
need
I'd
to
rather
tell something, go right ahead.
I can. I'll tell you
Depends
real
on
quick.
how long it's going to take you.
3 minutes.
You can have 2 minutes.
Tough. a dear friend of mine is Pastor Rick Warren, and this is all public information. And I speak at his church from time to time because I love him and I love what he and Kay do. And it's public information that his son Matt killed himself. It's out there, and Rick became very vulnerable about it. And I was doing the sermon the next week of that, and what I did is everybody was in shock because his church is very, very close and they're very relational. And I said, before I go into my talk that I already prepared, I need to tell you how to handle people who are in loss, because Kay and Rick are upside down. They're going to be okay because they're doing it all right. They're following the Lord. They're taking time off. They're getting surrounded by people. They are keeping normal pace. And they were doing everything right, painful as it might have been, in the worst loss you can have, which is the loss of your child. I said, let me just tell you, though, as someone who's seen this go wrong, how you as a community can handle this. Here's what you should not do. They'll come back in a few weeks because they've been with you 30 years. They'll come back. They'll be back on campus. They're committed to you. When they come back, don't go up and say, well, your son's in heaven and everything's fine. Not the right time. Certainly it's true, but that's not empathic. That's not a tuning. They're not tuning at all. Don't say that one. Don't give them 14 Bible verses. They know the Bible. And don't tell them your story and take 15 minutes about your losses. That's over-identification. So here's what you should do, because they love you and they want to be with you. When they see you again, you see them on campus, just say, how are you? And give them room and give them space to say what they need to say, because they'll go one or two directions. Everybody in major loss goes one or two directions. One is they're going to go, I've been thinking and praying and crying and journaling all morning. Let's talk about baseball. And you go, great. How's the Angels doing? Or they'll say, I'm not doing well. You got a few minutes? And they tell you. And then you respond and be empathic and comfort them. So you let them determine what they need. You don't put an agenda on them. They either need to talk about something else because it's diversion time, or somebody to just love them as they are. The Jews call it sitting Shiva. Let them determine the agenda. If you've got a Deborah in your life, let her or him determine the agenda. It'll make a big difference. So God bless Deborah. Okay, Stacy.
That was great. Thank you for sharing that, John. And you have a live caller. Caller, you're live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead.
Hello.
Well, hello.
Hi, what's your name and where are you in the world? I can hear you fine.
This is Jane, and I'm from Ventura, just down
Hi, Jane.
a couple hours north.
Yep. I love Ventura. Great. Well, thanks for being here. And what's your question?
I was at one of your very first Owies way back in 2004, so this is kind of fun.
The Owie, the 1 week intensive. Now, that's the workshop we do in Costa Mesa, California, that Henry and I speak at. We have a ton of counselors, pastoral counselors, psychiatrists, therapists, and all that stuff. And you came in 2004.
I did, long time
Jane,
ago.
do you know that it's going on this week?
Yeah, I saw that. I did.
Yeah, I just spoke twice and just drove here on the show. So, wow. Well, are you a clinician or a therapist or something, or what?
No, I was heading up a Christian ministry at the time, and it was just a huge life changer. I would recommend it for anybody. Anyway, it was just phenomenal. It was a life changer personally and professionally. It was amazing.
Thank you.
So here's it's nothing dramatic, no relationship issue, but it's, I moved to Tennessee in 2005 and, cause I wanted to try something new, took my mom with me, took my dog with me. And then after 10 years of that, I had been through cancer. My mom was turning 90. The dog had just died. And I wasn't really happy in Tennessee because I didn't have that social structure of safe, supportive friends. And we were getting at an older stage in life. So I moved back to California in 2015. So I've been back here 6 years, and the social structure of safe friends has been exactly what I needed so desperately, and I love that. However, COVID, I'm self-employed, and COVID put a huge dent in my industry. I'm in the faith film business industry, and what happened was that films are back, but they're no longer hiring our virtual team. So things have changed. I'm considering moving back to Tennessee because jobs are easy there, but I don't have that I'm trying to decide what's more important, the financial stability or the safe, supportive structure of friends I so crave at 62 with supporting an elderly mom. So I feel a little stuck.
Okay, so this is kind of one of those, let's do a decision tree where you can kind of figure out the yins and yangs of the whole thing. Like I'm putting my, let's say you're my client, I'm an executive coach. And so I'm saying, okay, here's the situation where, Jane has got these, we don't know if it's going to be which way because there's a lot of factors, but I'm just going to take you through a few questions. Can we do it that way?
Sure.
Okay. Number one, let's start with the relational support. That's huge. It's a big deal. And so is there another pivot you can do career-wise? 62 people still change jobs all the time. Have you scoured that at all to say, can I keep a similar level of, is it an income issue or a passion issue or a mission issue? People keep jobs for income, passion, or mission. What's your thing?
At this stage in life, it's a passion issue, but the reality is it's an income issue.
Okay, so it's not like you can kind of volunteer because you got some money somewhere else. You need to live on the money that you get, the revenue you get from this.
That's right.
Okay. Have you scoured other industries that might give you interest and passion that have the right revenue? Have you done the searches for the things external to the film industry?
I have. Things have desperately changed in that industry. It's no longer, I do theatrical release marketing and it's all streaming and very technological,
right.
and it's shrunk. It's shrunk.
Right.
So I'm actually interviewing for a job with a media company in Nashville, which is a phenomenal company. I like the job. Although I have to say for the last 13 years, I've been working at home and that has been a godsend, with taking care of my mom, and I had gone through cancer and all these things. So love that.
But when you look outside the industry, are there other things that staying in Ventura would give you? You have the anchoring relationally, but it might not be the faith film industry, but something you'd like. Have you done that search outside your industry?
Yeah, and it's all technical stuff that I hate.
Hold on. I'm going beyond that. Outside you're still sticking in film. I don't know, real estate, major medical supplies, buying a grocery store. I'm saying, have you looked beyond what you've done to say, is there something else that I'm good at that I could do that would bring me the revenue? And if you have done that, I'll ask a second question. If you haven't done that, I'll go, maybe you should do some searching. Tell me.
I have looked outside. I've looked at all kinds of different available jobs for the income that I would need and for what I do. It's different at 40 than at 62, and the workload has changed.
It has.
And the jobs that are out there, I think that I would probably last for about an hour out of sheer boredom, or I'd run into a millennial or something.
Wait a minute.
I'm looking.
Wait a minute. The millennials are fine.
They are. The company I'm interviewing with in Nashville, that's all it is, and they're fun.
Right, they're great. They're not the problem. That really helped me because what you're saying is, no, I've done the due diligence, and the things that I could pull off the revenue aren't there. So your only choices are have a substandard revenue and have a deep set of roots, or go to Tennessee where sound like you'll thrive financially, and here's what you do. You create new roots. Now let me finish. What people do that really works is they transition. They don't just uproot the old people. I mean, we all Zoom and we fly back and see them and we call and all that, and you keep transitioning, but you know that over time they can't be your number one support because you live over here, but you use them in a transitional way while you do whatever you did in 2015. Well, in 2022 or 23, you do the same thing you did in Ventura, and you do it in Tennessee. And that's what I would recommend.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, you don't sound happy about it. Why are you disappointed?
Oh, well, it's a silly thing. I think part of it's just that I just absolutely love the lifestyle out here. It's just so difficult to live here. And Tennessee is a little bit different culture. It's when I was there, I had a difficult time stepping into a safe, supportive group just because it was so all family all the time, and I'm not just me and my mom. So it's but I suppose the job that I'm looking at is conservative media, and it's like an immediate family almost. So
Oh, like
I don't
built
know.
in kind of way.
It is. I think it's more of an emotional thing of
I
leaving
do
my
too.
home state. I think.
I
Do
think
you?
that's what you're talking about. I think at a deeper level, these are probably not just roots from 15. These are roots from way back, and it's very hard
Yeah.
because there's so many child nurturant memories and people you loved when you were developing. And I think now that
Yeah.
I know, now that we've hit that, I think that we're probably going to have a what I would call a really respectful grief process, saying goodbye to some things you really loved. It doesn't make Tennessee the bad guy; it just means it's different. And you'll probably need to find a good listener person who will just say, "Let me walk you through the grief while you're making these decisions." But it does sound like that's the right way.
I like that. That helps very, very much. Thank you.
Great question. Thanks for calling, Jane.
All right. Bye-bye.
Change is, and she made a really good point, guys. When you're leaving something you were in for 5 years, okay. When you leave something that has roots when your brain was developing 0 to 6, it can be a big deal. It doesn't mean the change isn't necessary, and doesn't mean the change isn't a great change. But give yourself the grace and give yourself the time to respect the grief and say, I'm really, really sad and it's overwhelming. I need somebody who's good with grief and not somebody who'll say, suck it up, get on your horse and go. They're good for like other things, sports and all that, but not for this. Get somebody who goes, I get how hard it is, and still keep making the right moves. You can grieve something that's important and still create a life for yourself at the same time. The human brain can do that. So really, really helpful question. All right. What's up, Stacy?
Okay, John, you have a question from one of your Facebook Live viewers. Her name is Diane. She
Hi,
is
Diane.
from Tennessee. She says she is retirement age, has 2 sons. Older is 34, has bipolar, social anxiety, autism, and he has 2 technical diplomas. He moves from his bed to his recliner for video games. She went through a difficult divorce. Older son also discovered dad had an affair and had a mental health breakdown. The younger son is 30, doesn't want to see her. She tries to volunteer, has a few women friends, small group. She's trying a watercolor painting class, and she just can't seem to get over feeling sad. She says that life seems filled with regrets, and she would really like to move forward. She misses her ex-husband. It's been 10 years. She says he had his faults, she knows, but he's remarried and seems settled, and she just wants to know how she can feel good again.
All right. And it's Diane, right?
Yes.
That's a tough one, especially when things are going upside down with your kids, and missing someone that you're divorced from means there's still attachment there. And so, Diane, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm glad you're with us. Let me tell you what I am seeing. Remember, we like to go to the why before we go to the do this, because if you do this without the why, it never works. So remember, you've got to have the DX, the diagnosis from your doctor, and then you got to go to the RX, which is you go to CVS or wherever and get the prescription. I'm not going to give the prescription yet. I'm going to give you the DX, my idea of it, and then I got to have a suggestion. You have done a good job of taking a life that's really struggling, especially at retirement age when things should be a tad easier, and trying to do some positive things. It's something you're getting involved in. I think you said watercolors and some other activities with people, and being in a relationship is always number one about anything. But you still feel sad, and you want to not feel that way. You want to get back on. Here, that was part of the DX. The other part of the DX is you have what I would consider untreated grief. Untreated, and we call it either untreated grief, Diane, or we call it unprocessed grief. Meaning, it's really good to do good things and be involved with people, but it's also kind of like saying, I got a fever, and so I'll stay around cold environments because cold environments make my body temperature lower. So maybe that'll help my fever. Probably not a bad idea around cold environments. Who knows? I mean, might freshen things up, but it's not addressing the fever itself, Diane. I think you need to put some time and energy and focus into grief. And we've kind of been talking about grief the entire show, actually, from the other callers, people who have these losses. And don't stop doing what you're doing with these good people and activities and trying to negotiate with your sons as best you can, but don't spend your whole life trying to manage 2 30-year-old guys. I mean, they've got their lives, help them, but don't enable them. But you also need, for Diane, to face her grief. Now, there's 2 ways I would suggest doing it. One is, I'm big on the healthy churches, and I know a ton of healthy churches. And if there's a healthy church in Tennessee near you, and you can say, is there a group where they help people who have had major losses? Then that's what I would do. And then you're surrounded by community, and you've got a facilitator there, and they probably have a good curriculum or structure. Sometimes they use my materials and these kind of things, and you walk through it and feel the emotions, and you get comfort for the emotions, and your grief is respected, and you're facing it. You're facing the cause of the fever. Okay, that's one. The other is, if that's not your liking, maybe you don't want to be in a group or whatever, is get a really good grief counselor. And any licensed therapist has sufficient training in grief. They know the process. They know what the brain does in grief. When you're in grief and you haven't dealt with it, it's sort of like you're always in a depressed state and you can't think straight. People will say, when I don't deal with my losses, except by to try to be busy, which is kind of what you're doing in good ways, but it's not enough. They say, it feels like I've got aluminum foil crackling in my head all the time. I can't concentrate. I can't think. I feel like I'm doing nothing but crying. That's a sign that the grief needs to be taken care of. So go to somebody that says, I do work with grief, and face it. Do all the other stuff. Manage the relationship with the boys. Don't rescue. Make sure you're doing these positive things. But it's time for grief. And let me tell you this: people don't understand this. Grief is not temporary. Grief is not permanent. If you deal with it and face it, it is not permanent. Depression can be permanent. If you don't deal with depression, you'll be there while you're alive. Grief, if you jump in there and deal with it, it's a season of life. There's a book Henry Cloud and I wrote called How People Grow. We have seen so many miracles that come from the grief process. And one of the things we say in the book is, grief is the pain that will solve most other pains. Grief and the pain, when you do it in relationship and you take it through the steps and the seasons, it's the pain that will solve most other pains. And so that's where I would go. And best wishes to you, Diane. By the way, a lot of the things we're talking about come from places that I train at. And one thing we do is we have a school. We have a graduate school. It's called the Townsend Institute of Leadership and Counseling. And at the Townsend Institute of Leadership and Counseling, a person during the time of COVID, everybody's going, what's really important? I don't want to just get a check. I want to get a check and have meaning. People can get a fully accredited online master's in counseling, or credential if you don't want the master's, or a PhD in counseling, you get a doctorate, or you can get a master's in organizational leadership or a credential, or a master's in executive coaching and consulting or a credential, or a bachelor's in organizational psychology. So wherever you are, if you want to go, it's time to get something that's convenient and it's affordable, and I'm ready for my next 2.0 or 3.0 in life. This is what we do. If you like this kind of model of growth and health and all that, that's what we do. And we're fully accredited. We've got a ton of great faculty. They're wonderful people. And I'm around there all the time, and lots and lots of people around me that you would love, who are fellows, like people like Henry Cloud and Daniel Amen and Greg Brenneman and Jim Daly, CEO of Focus on the Family, and Ken Blanchard. They teach with us too. So I'll throw it up on the website, but if it's your time to get some training, that is people are getting great jobs now. We've been around 5 years now, and the reports are really good. I just talked to somebody today. She got a great job with her master's in counseling. She couldn't be happier. She's in the northeast of the country. Try it out. Anyway, so Stacy, got somebody?
Hey, John, you have a live caller right now. Caller, you're live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, Dr. Townsend. It's so great to get to talk to you. My name is Diane, and I'm calling from Tennessee.
Hi, Diane. Did you just write me?
Yes, I did.
Did I just answer your question?
Yes, sir, you did. And I'm kind of surprised I'm on.
Okay. All right, Diane, wait a minute. You win the prize. We have never had this happen on the show. This is too funny where somebody writes their question and now we're talking. So, well, glad you're here. Do you still have a question? Do you want to chat or you want to check out? I mean, I'll do whatever you want to. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and talk to you while I have a chance. I'm in my 70s, and I have two sons. One is 34. He has some disability.
Oh, Diane, did you hear me answer that question on the show?
Oh yeah, no, I could just hear part of it.
Oh, the show
I
was
thought you were
recorded.
talking to a woman named Stacy.
No, Stacy's our producer. Stacy's our producer. This is too funny. So here's the deal. No, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this. This show was recorded. You can see it anytime you want on Facebook. All you got to do is when the show's over, you hit the button a few minutes later and you see, and I answer your question about your sons and the watercolors and I still feel sad and all that stuff. I gave you about a 5-minute answer and you're ready to go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll definitely push the button and listen to all of it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Oh, Stacy, that was our first double.
That was funny. I guess maybe she didn't hear that you were talking to her. And
Well, she thought it was
question.
Stacy. She thought I was talking to you that you needed some stuff. So great. I hope that Diane can get an answer from this. And by the way, some people don't know this, and it's good to say from time to time. I'm glad that she brought it up. These things are always recorded. It'll always be on your Twitter Live, your YouTube Live, your Facebook Live, and your LinkedIn Live. So you can always go back. People, in fact, more people go back over it because, it's convenient. You can do it 24/7 if you can't see it right now, and they're always there for you. So our records say that more people on an aggregate total level are into it in the recording than they are live. Now, that doesn't mean don't come in live because we'd be dead if you did not do that. Right, Stacy? We would be dead.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you can get back on the recording.
Well, John, you have another question from a caller named Paul on Instagram, and he says he and his wife have been married for 8 years, and they started having children pretty quickly. So they have 3 small children, and all under the age of 5. And so he says that his wife, after the first child was born, started displaying narcissistic behavior, and that it has only gotten worse as the other 2 children came along, and that it's tearing the marriage apart, and it is also bleeding over into how the children treat each other and him. He has asked her to go to counseling. He is fearful that if something doesn't happen, that it's going to ruin not only the marriage, but his children's future lives. And he is concerned about what he can do as a father in the relationship.
Real sorry to hear this, Paul. It sounds serious. Whatever those behaviors are that you're observing, and there tends to be sort of a spectrum of them. Anything from a sense of entitlement, like I should be treated special, to a sense of self-absorption. It's all about me. And narcissists a lot of times, or not even full-blown narcissists, but people with narcissistic tendencies. I don't know where your wife is. I don't know her. So it could be a tendency. It could be full fun thing. But a lack of interest, a lack of empathic interest in the pain of other people, and also in how their actions impact other people. So they hurt their feelings and they alienate them, and that people get hurt and wounded, and they don't really have an empathetic response to that. And what's called sometimes narcissistic rage, which is if you say something to them that can be constructive criticism, like, you were really harsh with me or the kids, or, it seemed like you spent more time doing social media than you did taking care of the kids. The narcissistic rage hits their shame button, and they become sort of out of control, very angry when you confront them instead of saying, oh, tell me what I did wrong. They don't do that. So there's all these things they do. And when you're sort of you get the Heisman from a person, and your wife's, the Heisman, right? You know the statute. She's giving the Heisman saying, I don't want to do any counseling. You can't stop that. You can't stop the appeal to counseling. But what you have to do is step one is number one is be vulnerable with her. And it's hard to be vulnerable with a narcissist because they could, wreck you, but you have to be. And you say something like, look, I know I'm also to blame too. And it's not me, the perfect husband, and you, the screw up. I know in the way that we are parenting and in our marriage, I know I'm part of this too. And I really need us to get help. And I want to look at the beam in my eye and whatever issues I'm causing too. A lot of times, if the person doesn't have really severe narcissistic tendencies, but sort of in the mild level, they'll go, well, you're not shaming me. You're saying you're part of the problem too. And they'll go. See, it's always better, Paul, to begin with the vulnerable approach, which is, I need this, and I'm sure I'm part of the problem. And that gets you, the goal, Paul, is get into the operating room with the shrink. There's no other, in your situation, there's no other places to go if it's going to be that serious. So that's number one. If that doesn't work, Paul, then the next one is to say, look, I'm dying here. And I'm going to have to go see a marriage counselor about our marriage with you not there, wishing you would be there, inviting you to be there. But Susie, we're going to talk about you. I can talk about how it affects me and the kids and strategies to handle that. Now, if the spouse has any kind of what we call an observing ego, if they're kind of like think ahead, they'll go, wait a minute, you're talking to a pro about strategies to deal with me. I might not like those strategies. And they're more likely to go begrudgingly, but you don't care. It's not about begrudging or happy. It's about getting their butt to the operating room, which is the counseling office. They'll say, well, okay, I'll go, because they want to be around and have some control over the input you get. You don't care. Now they're with the professional. That's what I would do. Now, there's some that are pretty severe and say, go all you want. You can go every day if you want to, but I don't have a problem. It's all you, and I'll do X, Y, Z. And that's when you go to that therapist and you say, here's my situation. And here's maybe I'm codependent. Maybe I rescue. Maybe I have a masochistic personality. Who knows? Work on me, but you got to help me know what to do here. And here's the blessing, is that a licensed therapist who's good will say, yeah, I've dealt with 1,000 of you, and I've dealt with 1,000 of these kind of marriages. And here's what I suggest. And probably they will get together. Their suggestions will be things like a certain amount, not only of how to love her better, but also some boundaries and consequence. That's why Henry Cloud and I wrote Boundaries in Marriage, because sometimes you need them. And she will help you have a professionally created structure of what's it going to take for Susie to get help. So go in that route, from the vulnerable to the invitation to the I'm going to get help whether you're there or not, to the okay, my therapist and I are quarterbacking together, and the boundaries to come. That's the way it works. Good luck, Paul.
Okay, welcome to the Dr. Townsend Show. You are live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, Dr. Townsend, how are you today?
I am good. What's your name and where are you from?
My name is Carissa Smith.
Just first name. Just first name. First name.
Carissa.
Carissa, okay. And where do you live, Carissa?
Hartsville, Alabama.
Gotcha. Well, welcome to the program. And what's your question today?
Well, I've been on the show with you before, and it was about I think it was a week after we had Summit last year for CR.
CR, and, Celebrate Recovery, which is the wonderful Christian recovery program started at Saddleback Church with John and Cheryl Baker. So welcome. I love you guys. I speak there every year,
yes.
Every national conference, every year, always will. Love you guys.
Yes. Well, I'm going to try to see it live this year if I can help it. If we actually decide to do it live this time. Okay. Really, my question was really how it was talked about last time. Was I told you that my husband was bipolar. He was off of his meds been off his meds for a while. Everything did get better for a while. He did clean up his act a little bit. We was both in after leaving CR, then everything started really fall apart just right before Thanksgiving. He started going back to his old ways, and actually have gotten violent really a couple of times.
I'm sorry.
And I also had picked up yours and your co-writer's book, Boundaries on Marriage. And I've actually, I've started to apply it, and I really do hate that I have to have really those brownies. Well, they finally got physical for the first time Saturday. I filed the order of protection, and
I'm so sorry, Carissa.
I decided to go ahead and file for a divorce because he's not going to change. And many times I've tried, I can't fix him.
I know. This is
I can't.
This is so hard, Carissa. This is so devastating. I'm just so sorry.
And but he's really. I don't want to do it. I mean, he's
Okay, I need you to
really.
ask me a question, and I'll help you. Just ask me a question.
Yeah, my question was really. I'm at least starting to have second doubts a little bit. Is to do the really the right thing. I mean, I don't think it's really to the point of trying to reconcile it. Or am I just jumping the gun to go ahead and file for divorce? Or do I need to stick with it and just go with my gut and do it now?
It sounds a little gun jumping, Carissa. And let me tell you why. It's not that you haven't suffered in the marriage. You have, like you were saying, before your CR days, he was really destructive, and then he got off the program, and now he's destructive again. So you've suffered a lot. But the reason I think it might be a little jumping the gun is because I don't see a mentored or coached or facilitator person behind you with a structure of regular boundaries and regular help, that if he fails all that, then you got to go to your pastor and say, do I have a divorce? Because your pastor's got to help you decide all that. It seems a little because you're in so much pain, which is certainly understandable. You're in so much pain and you're the end of your wet rope. And I mean, you had to, for crying out loud, you had to call the police on him. So I think that the depth of pain you're in, and I think you're being traumatized. I think the trauma you're in has caused you to go, I can't stand this. And so we do that a lot. We go into the furthest way we can, which would be divorce, before we need to. So let me make a suggestion. Do you have a CR sponsor, or how they have a sponsor system?
I do.
Okay. Okay.
I do. I gotta get back. I gotta get back really with her. My phone had disconnected, and then I lost really contact with her. But I did talk to our ministry leaders about it.
All right. Do they I want you to ask them, unless you've already asked them this question. Tell me if you have already asked them. I need a structured plan for dealing with him before I divorce him, because I want to know I've done everything I could in due diligence. The Bible talks about step upon step and precept upon precept and all this. Have I done everything structured instead of a knee jerk because I'm in so much darn pain that I can't stand it? That's impulsive. I understand it, but it's impulsive. Is there somebody, have you asked him to give you a plan or a path, Carissa?
Yes, I did ask. We were at this point last time, and
Right.
I gave him the ultimatum, and he straightened out for a little while, and now he's back to the same thing. And I told him, if it happens again, then I'm going to go through it, and that's why I called the police I'm going to file for the order of protection. I haven't really done it yet because
Yeah.
at this time, he checked himself into the hospital.
Oh, he
And
did.
I don't know.
But you don't know if you
did.
can.
And I don't,
You don't know if you can trust that, though, right? Because it's happened before.
correct. And
Let me
I don't know
clarify
his
something here,
opinion.
Carissa. Is I get that. And I like a lot of the things you've done, but he hasn't proved that he can come back in and be loving and nice to you, right? He's failed the
Right.
test.
I mean,
So
it's just,
hold. Let's get a. I want to give you a little path. I don't want you to take to your big path people. Is you
Okay.
might need to say to your sponsor and your wise people in your life, I need a path where he can't hurt me, and that means if that means we've got to live separately in two separate domiciles, while he's learning to grow up and he's learning to get healthy and learning to take his meds, and I'm learning to be stronger. And then here's the beauty of this idea, Carissa. There's somebody that's going to be the shot caller. It could be a therapist, a pastor, or some wise person. And that shot caller says, Bill, you're not ready to move back in with Carissa yet. You're not stable enough. You're going to hurt her. And then he can't. And then you go on for another few weeks or month. And then the person says, oh, you got a track record that you've been kind and you're owning your stuff and you're stable or not. But you can't be more vulnerable again. You've got to stay separate. The Bible talks about shaking the dust off your sandals. You got to shake the dust off your sandals so you're not hurting anymore while he's working his program. I would put that factor in there with your people that are smart and take it from there, Carissa, before I would pull the trigger. So I hope that helps, and thank you for your call. That was a very, very important call.
yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, that does help. A little bit, and
Get
we'll
that shot
see.
caller.
Really,
Let them make the
we'll see
decision
what
whether you get back together, not you guys, because y'all are in the fishbowl together. You can't be objective or clear. The shot caller can say he's safe because he's proven himself over time, or oh, he's not safe. It's like your kid. He's back in timeout for another 3 months. You don't make the call. Your shot caller does. Anyway, I got to run, but thank you, Carissa.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
All right. That's the thing about it is sometimes we bail in relationships because somebody's really mean or hurtful, and we're so hurt that we just knee jerk. It's kind of a trigger response, and I'll never see him again. And even though that has to happen sometimes in great emergencies, the nature of human relationships isn't to leave everything when somebody's mean to you. It's to hang in there as long as you can. I mean, God doesn't really leave people. He lets them do a lot of crazy stuff until he finally says, your way, not mine. So the answer is not get out unless you absolutely have to. The answer is more structure, more boundaries, more health, more interventions, more support. You add up the health and the boundaries until it's time. So that's why you try to stay away from the knee jerk.
Hey, John. Okay, you have another question from one of your live viewers on Facebook, and she says, oh, well, it was there, but I'm guessing that she's editing it because it just disappeared. So you have a live caller in this moment.
All righty.
Okay, you are live with Dr. Townsend. What's your question?
Hi, John. This is Shayla.
Hey, Shayla, where are you in this world we live in?
I am in Michigan.
Oh, hey, Shayla. Shayla's a growing
Hi.
person who wants to go be really healthy and go change the world. She's a good person.
Yeah.
All righty. Shayla, what's your question today?
My question for today, I am wondering the people, so in your church, you have small groups that are geared towards growth. And my question is there a training program for the leaders of those groups, and how do they get trained?
Yeah, there is. I can give you, if you'll leave your information with Stacy, I can give you the name of the pastor there who is in charge of all that, pastor of care and recovery. And he's the one that, I mean, there's a ton of small groups. He's the person that just finds the curricula, whether it's, depression, love, grief, or whatever. And then he can tell you what training he does. there might be another source too. Let me noodle for a second. I'm going to give you also, Stacy will do this when you send the information. And just go to my site, you know, do the whole info at DR Townsend, whatever it is, and ask about if the growth skills model will help. Growth skills is that 1 week intensive that Henry and I do. That's a nonprofit, and they have an aspect that goes into churches and does training on small groups the way that we look at small groups. And so it has to do with the character aspects and how the emotions affect the care in the brain. And the person that runs that, her name is Maureen Price. She can give you a referral to that too. So we'll give you my church and also Maureen Growth Skills. And they're worth the conversation, because the right kind of small group is the right kind. And a bad small group is a total snoozer, and you don't want to waste your time. So.
Right. Well, I want to implement it in my church.
Have you ever been in a really good small group?
Not in the way that you write about, but
so you've read Making Small Groups Work?
Yeah, but I don't think that I have the training to do it myself.
Yeah, you need some training, you need a facilitator. And if you like our model, Henry and my model, then the first place to go would probably be to Maureen, because she knows our model very well, and she can say, oh yeah, we'll go to your church, or people will come to us or whatever, and we'll do a 2-day training on what do you do with the agenda? How do you do the values? How do you make it safe? How can people get to the real issues? What do you do with silence? What about that guy that won't shut up? They do all that in a 2-day training, and it's very effective.
Yeah, I would love that.
Shay, this is why you're cool.
Do they train it also? One last minor question. Do they also train that in the institute? Like the counseling program?
Yeah, we have group training. Now, to get in the institute, once a person is enrolled, they've got to go through 8 intensive process groups at our conference. We just had a couple weeks ago. And we got the best facilitators in the country. They come in and they work with our students in the cohort level, do a lot of intensive stuff. But that's not the training for it. It's the experience of it. Then they can get trained. If they like that stuff, then they can take a course that's got groups in it. And I can give you the name of the director of the counseling program too. Her name is Dr. Donna Washburn. And Dr. Washburn, just tell her I sent you. And she can, I don't know all the courses and which one it'd be, but she's the expert in all that. But yeah, we believe in small groups because we think it's the second family, and you heard me say this, Shayla. You're given the family of origin. That's the FOO, family of origin. God bless us, we all got one. And for better or for worse. Hopefully it's good, but it still has things that have to get fixed. But then God gives us the family of God, FOG. And those are the people, like Jesus said, who are those that are my mother and brother and sister, but those that do the will of God? That's why I love small groups. They're the second family that kind of fills in the gaps where the first family maybe didn't do right about attachment or about having your voice and being able to speak up. And so I'm a total small group fan, and I'm glad you are too. So yeah, check this out, but we're all over that.
Sweet. Okay. Well, I will see you in August, one way or the other.
Are you enrolled?
Yeah.
You didn't tell me that.
I told you that last fall, but then I had to defer.
Oh, maybe I forgot. Okay, I'll see you in the fall, but before that, maybe I'll see you on the show again. Thanks, Shayla.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, take care. Well, Stacey, I think we're out of time.
That's it for today, but hope everyone that wasn't able to get in today will call us back next Wednesday.
Can I do a little takeaway thing?
Absolutely.
We can't get rid of loss. We live in a world that has lots of losses. People are mean to us that used to be nice to us. People die, but opportunities go, our health goes. Worst thing you can do is suck it up. The best thing you can do is to be honest about it and get the support of other people. It's a great passage in the book of Isaiah. And it says about Jesus. It says he was a person who was well acquainted with grief. Be acquainted with grief. It hurts. It's sad. I went through it when I lost both my parents within 90 days a few years ago, but I'm so glad I went through it. I'm so much better now. Be a person well acquainted with grief. So see you guys next week.